Good. Okay, folks, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Yeah. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of March 11th.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of March 11th as written.
Seconded. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Opposed, carried. Okay. We'll go right on to new business and review the attendance situation. You guys have been
I guess that's in my lap,
well, yeah, okay, it's been going on for a couple of months.
right. And I did this, but, anyway, Howie, thank you very much for doing a summary, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
So I
If
guess,
anyone else wants a copy of that, I got them here.
so,
Oh, I think I tried to get yours all squared up.
I'll take it.
I think everyone got the information by email.
Probably, yep.
Open for comments from the committee.
So, my comment is, and it's been brought up in, not public discussion, but, what do we consider attendance that requires attention?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well,
What is the town's policy for committees?
I don't know.
Is there
I
one?
don't know.
I'm not aware of any. When we started this several years ago and started doing this, I think we discussed it last meeting, is we had a committee and, you know, we were having 50% absenteeism on a regular basis, and we would come down for a meeting and not enough members to have a quorum, so that's when I started doing this, and then we reviewed it once a year, and some people looked at it and decided that their attendance wasn't good, and they resigned. So then we brought in new members, and for the most part, it's been pretty good here.
So basically, what you're saying, and I know what the answer is, that it's a personal choice. You can be appointed to be a member of the harbor committee if you don't attend or a majority of the meetings. There's no disqualification for them being a member.
As far as I'm aware now,
Right.
it's just between us committee members and the. It's
So, and I don't know if that's something that would have to be designated by the town or even in our own ordinance. And it's been brought up. John and I talked about it. Does anybody have any feelings?
Do we have a waiting list?
Yes.
I think, you know, if people can't, you know, if they're at 60% or less. You know, at least we could, you know, say, you know, do you still want to be on the committee? And if you do, you need to attend the meetings. And if you don't want to or can't attend the meetings, then please resign and your seat will be filled by somebody who wants to be on the committee.
It's probably a good idea.
We have a person on here that's, you know, absent.
Yeah.
More than he's here. And a lot of them unexcused, doesn't even bother to call in. So,
And that's the other thing, we do have the excuse process, you know. Every one of us, once in a while, are not going to be able to make the meeting, so you.
What I'm gonna suggest is that John check with the town manager, see if we should have a committee rule, a private regulation, or if there's some other way to address this. Because if we have a waiting list of people who would like to be on the committee, attendance is important. And so, okay, does anybody else have anything to say?
Well, I think I wonder if the selectmen have a policy,
Yeah,
because
I
they're
don't know.
all always there. And I think you have to be in the meetings for continuity of discussion.
But for
That's what John's gonna ask.
And also now with Zoom. You know, I was out of town, I took the meeting on Zoom, you
Yep.
know, it's a lot easier than it used to be.
Right. So, maybe you could tell us at our next meeting, John, if there's a rule or regulation, or if we want to establish something, okay?
Sure. So we'll keep this on the table. I think next week has something.
Jim,
Yeah,
Okay.
could we, I mean, in June, when the cycle usually appoint people, I believe. And certain time of year,
yeah, I forgot.
I was going to suggest the chairman of the committee, if someone is chronically not here. Ask them if they want to resign, or when the time comes, some, you know, in June, it's a good time to do it, and say,
If you want me to do that, I will do it, in cooperation with John. Is that how the rest of the committee feels?
That's not a bad thing for the people that don't ever show up, you know. We could maybe be proactive and just ask them if they wanna just resign.
then give us a chance, if they wanted to step off, then when the selectmen are in their appointment mode, is when they could do it.
Then we wouldn't have to
Most
do.
all of the appointments happen right after town meeting.
I'll come down and talk with you, John.
Sure, well, I can get the information from Claire on whether there already is something.
Yeah.
On the books somewheres that we can,
We could send out a letter or email. To all the members and. Because I think it's important, if you're gonna be on the committee, you should. Have a positive attendance record.
Yeah, and I think we should, once you find out what the towns is, you know, endorse that or. And then establish our own too, you know, and maybe once a year. We go back to this, obviously, we have some issue here now. We go back to doing this, it hadn't been an issue for a while, so I hadn't been bringing it to the committee. But it is now, I guess.
I don't know if we would have, if the people who are on a waiting list, if we should just go with the order that they're on. Or if we could try to have a better diversity of the harbors that we have representative,
That's up to the select.
like I'm in, you know, Soamesville. And I keep a boat in Soames Harbor.
there's only 2 people on the waiting list right now, and one of them is probably gonna be one of our new selectmen, so he's not gonna be eligible.
And they're both from Seal Harbor, so that would give us Howie a little backup.
You need backup, Howard?
I don't know. I can always use some help.
There you go. Okay, all right. I'll come down and see you, John, we'll talk this over.
Sure.
Get back to you at our next meeting. All right. Main Pier discussion. That's my high
I don't
priority.
know if it. We get all these people sitting here for the ice rink, I don't know if you wanna take them at first.
That's fair. All right, let's do the ice rink.
Brian, you asked me to put this on the agenda, so.
Yeah, I'll maybe start us off and just talk about a couple of the things.
Sure.
We can cover, and it had been.
I'll turn the floor over to you for the ice rink.
Okay, I think everybody knows me, I'm Brian Hinkle, Public Works Director.
Yeah, if you do speak up for the record, state your name, please. Thank you.
So we, I heard from a few people that they were interested in getting an update here at the Harbor Committee relative to the tennis court, pickleball court, and ice rink combination project that we have going on down at the next to the Chamber of Commerce. So I thought it would be useful to come here and at least give you an update on where things are and what's been done towards that project. And what we're looking at, and try and answer any questions if there are outstanding questions, because I know it's an important space for this committee, with people that are working out of these harbors. And just want to make sure you have an opportunity to understand what's going on. And I think the areas that we can cover is I've got Greg Johnson here, he's working on the design of the tennis courts and ice rink combination. We can talk about, what our construction schedule is looking like, where design is, what our anticipated timing is for the work that's going on down there. We can also talk about, you know, the fundraising aspect of it, so we have folks, that did a lot of the fundraising for the ice rink side of it, and then we also have Peter here, who's been managing the ice rink, and I think we can talk a little bit about the use that's down there. And I think the one other aspect of it is, once we do have chillers in place, I think some of the questions were regarding sound levels and where things were gonna be, and we can kind of address that.
So I do have a question. Are you happy with the attendance? The use of the area?
We could start off with that, and I'll maybe turn it over to Peter, because he gave a little presentation at our last select board, or the one before that, about the attendance, which overall, I think for the limited days and capacity of the ice, I think is pretty good. I'll let Peter speak more directly to it.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Peter Bronson. I'm probably sort of operating right on a day-to-day basis. I think most of you have seen it down there, maybe. The amount of people that are skating is absolutely dependent on the weather, unfortunately. And the first year we had a sort of average year. The second year we never were able to skate in the afternoon, I think. And this year we've had many days where we could skate all day long and into the night, because we have some little portable lights down there for a couple weeks. So let's say 38 days was on average, let's say, but this year we've had 60 days of skating, and it's an estimate because I'm not there all day long. But as far as from what I've seen and the reports I've had and from some of my helpers and volunteers, I think we've had about 1,600 people down there. 1,600, so that's quite good. And there's also obviously a virtual side of it, which is the Facebook and Instagram reach, let's say, which is publicity, and in that sense we have 1,000 followers who check, and obviously there I post whether the rink is open at all, and when it's going to be open, and when it's reserved for ice hockey, and when it's general skating and stuff like that. So a lot of people are checking that, and people are sharing it, and they're from all over the state of Maine, and also all the way down to Philadelphia and New York, and all the summer residents like to check that out. And we have we've had the posts that I've made, 140 posts, they've had over 60,000 shares and likes and stuff like that. So that's somewhat significant, but obviously the attendance is not what I'd like it to be, because we can't organize ever anything really. I've tried to do clinics, I've tried to do learn to skate and then learn to play hockey for adults and kids and organize games, and it's really difficult when you have to cancel short notice because it's just too warm.
So I'm not being critical, but I've seen it when it could have been good skating and the gates locked. So
When was that?
when was it? I don't have the exact date, but somebody could have been skating, but they couldn't get in because there was a padlock on the gate.
4 or 7 in the morning?
No, it was actually in the middle of the day.
Then the ice was not okay. You believe me, I don't think in the last 3 years there's ever been a day that's been good skating and the ice was unused. Really, it's hard to tell, and if you could by any chance remember the date of that day, I could go back to the post.
No, I was just surprised that I saw.
Yeah,
I saw a padlock.
Yes. No, the padlock is a great thing, because what happens is when the ice, let's say it's 31 degrees. And everyone would think, oh, it'd be great, we could skate and the ice looks good and everything. They go on the ice, maybe the day before wasn't, or the night wasn't cold enough, maybe there's slush on the ice that you can't quite see. Then people potentially cut through the ice with their skates, cut the liner, water gets out, and it's a nightmare. So the fact that we have a fence around it is key. And that padlock stays locked whenever but I've never missed a day of skatable ice.
Well, I've just on Rick's note,
Mhm.
I've made a point of watching and going by pretty much once a day, different times a day, and it just seemed like, wow, it's 30 degrees, it's not blowing a gale, it's not raining, no one's there.
Yeah, that's right, on a weekday, there's some people that come first thing in the morning, and then from 10, 11, 12, it can be totally empty.
I'd say at the end of the day, when school gets out, if there's ice to skate, it's full. And I know a lot of kids that come down, parents are hanging around town just waiting for their kids to go. And many afternoons and in our evenings, going to get dark, coming in on days that are cold or whatever, when I'd be out fishing, there's always someone on it. If the weather's permitting, I mean, those cold days that it's being used, and this year was exponentially way more use that I've noticed. And a lot more people, and it's, you see people in town just for that. I think it's one of the biggest draws in the off season right now, besides the neighborhoods.
My name's Sarah Mitchell. I would say, two things. One, I have high school kids who, at the end of the day, when school would get out, we could see who is down there. And high school kids I've never seen in town here coming by at the end of the day to play hockey. The other thing that's very important about Peter's numbers is, and I think this year, because it was so cold for so long, that we saw a huge jump in numbers, which goes to show that if we have the refrigeration and we're open all the time, that we really will have a great attendance and be able to plan things that we can't plan now because we never know if it's gonna be cold enough.
And in the middle of the day, I would love to have the PE classes come down like they have done sometimes, but again, it's impossible for them to plan that. Because, we don't know if there's gonna be ice that day.
So one of the harder points, what is the decibel? I know we have a limit in this town, obviously, and that wouldn't be allowed permitted without it violating that. If that is the compressor being close to being at the level on the, above the levels.
We've all seen some of the data, but
Yeah, so I think it's a single compressor, it operates at 90 decibel, which is equivalent to like a lawnmower if it's not enclosed, and the plan is to enclose it. So it kind of gives you a sense of what the noise is. Which we hear lawnmowers all the time. I don't know that the town has decibel reading.
We don't have a standard, we just have disturbing the peace.
Disturbing piece, yeah.
Yeah.
One of, actually, there is towns that have the decibel one. I was trying to figure out what it was, in the next town over, so.
yeah, lawnmower is one that I've seen compared to a hair dryer, but that's if it's not enclosed. So there's a plan to put privacy fence around it as well.
Will you use sound down as well?
We'll look at some products that might be.
I'll donate the sound down.
It's certainly not gonna be on all the time. I mean, it only runs when, it will run in the shoulder seasons quite often, but in the middle of winter, hopefully we won't need it that often.
But I have extra marine sound down that more and more to donate to it, it's quiet, essentially, for the inside of the case.
Yep.
It was my understanding, and I believe our committee was told that this was all gonna be done with private funds. And now we have a bond issue coming up for $600,000, which will be $900,000 once it's said and paid for.
Well, I'll speak to that.
Okay.
It is, I'm Jamie Clay. It is all being done by private funds. The bond issue is for both the tennis court and the rink. And the money that's coming from the town is through the tennis court.
I looked up what it costs to resurface a tennis court. And they said it's plus or minus $15,000.
Well, that's not gonna have to be clear.
And I don't see why you're tearing the whole tennis courts up. I know to put chillers underneath them. But to just take care of the tennis courts, they would just need to be resurfaced.
No, those tennis courts are incredibly sloped and damaged. They're needing to be complete. The project always was to completely redo them.
We're gonna end up with $1 million tennis courts. And that's a lot of money.
Yeah, one of the things is that the courts slope way more than you should be. I'm not saying it doesn't have to be professional grade, but
It's not a professional facility.
it loses 18 inches from end to end in places. And the reason why they are so variable in surface is that, of course, we know the harbor infills, like the water table coming up and down and pulling.
Build on a
fines out of it.
swamp.
Yeah, and pulling the fines out of it. So if we're gonna put money into the tennis courts, we're saying the tennis courts, there's a bit of work to do into the base, just to make the investment, the surface, have some more longevity.
The way, the poor condition of the courts right now, and knowing that the material that's underneath is not stable, and that there has been a lot of settlement in that area. The project as anticipated, and this actually started before me, the way that it was conceived, and Tony was putting the first part of this forward, was that it was gonna be a complete tear out in order to stabilize that surface, bring in new material. It wasn't just gonna be an asphalt resurfacing, because the asphalt that's down here now is on poor foundation and is in very poor condition. So there was gonna be a fair expense already, just for the way the project was conceived, because of the need of having that stability in that subsoil, that soil.
I'm pretty sure the original construction was a gift to the town. I'm not gonna mention any names, but I was on the board of selectmen at the time.
Of those courts.
Yeah, and it's actually, there's a lot of deliberate effort in that base. I don't actually know how long they've been there, but
Been there over 25 years.
there's a really good solid layer of crushed rock they meant for drainage, and that is sort of plugged and didn't have pipes. And so there was a deliberate attempt at that time to do exactly what needs to happen now.
So where will there'll be a new perimeter drain around it?
Yeah, it would
And
be,
where will that be tied into?
one of the basins in the lot.
And the courts will be designed to shed.
Correct. The courts themselves, actually to have them, part of the plans, the courts can be a, pickleball or tennis court at the same time. And they're, sort of a polymer playing surface that allows them to be both.
You control when no,
The chamber always used to keep some control over,
It would melt shed to that.
but for at least the
But
last
for-
10 years or more, they've just been open and.
I had a
use at
couple
your
of
own-
questions.
go ahead, Howard.
So what's the time frame of how long do you think it'll be open, you know, from June to, or whatever, you know? I don't know. I don't know, I don't skate, so. What were you guys planning on?
The skating rink will be open hopefully from maybe the end of October, something like that, till the end of April.
Okay.
In theory, depending on the weather, because obviously you can have ice with the chillers with 50 degrees, but probably any warmer than that is not working.
Okay, so pretty
We have
much
5 months,
October to
something
May,
like that.
October to
November,
May, yeah,
December,
okay,
into April,
and,
something like that.
all right, and then, I know that we've brought this up in previous, meetings, and it's something that I'm curious about as well, is, sort of the footprint of these chillers and, you know, and are they going away when you don't need them, you know? That kind of thing, rather than just being a fixture in the landscape for permanentness.
They're permanent. Because they're wired and electrical, and they have, the footprint is about 16 by 24, it's the housekeeping slab, 16 by 24. Is about the area that will be enclosed.
How tall?
Let's say. 7 feet tall, just, paraphrasing. Taller than a regular transformer, more like a generator.
And this is all electric.
Correct. Yep.
Do we have the power to, down there to run something like that?
You do. Not necessarily yours. The plan would be that it has to set another transformer that feeds this, so the transformer that's for the harbor facility, operates on its own.
Do we have any projection on how much the electricity is gonna cost to do this? And who's paying for that?
Not at the moment,
Well, we go into the public works budget, yeah, so we have to adjust the budget for how much we'll use.
Could you speak up? It's a little hard to hear.
Sure. So that would be, the electrical costs would be part of, the, I guess, either parks and cemeteries or buildings and grounds, one of those would be in the public works budget where we would add for electrical costs for the rink,
Not the harbor.
the rink.
I guess one of the thoughts I have, and I think it'd be wonderful to have a skating rink. But my first thought is to have it at the high school, so the high school can have a hockey team. And maybe even have Ellsworth use it also. They've been trying to do that for years and never have been able to do that.
We envision this rink as a community project, a community asset that the kids could come down after school and families could use. And that's why we originally had it out on the tennis courts. That would not be the case if we were at the high school. The other part of the community project is as an economic piece. We see people coming in from outside. Maybe they'll start using some of the services in town that are open. Maybe others will stay open in order to get that service. I think it's been a real benefit for the town in our opinion, and I think it can only be more.
Another one of my concerns is, and I have skated when I was younger. And two tennis courts is not a very large area to skate.
Right.
You can't get going very fast.
Um,
And when we were kids, we're going, 60 miles an hour backwards because we're young kids.
Two things. First of all, you probably haven't seen some of the hockey played down there. It's extremely fast. Secondly, the high school can't have a team down there because the rink is not official size. So you're right about the fact that we have half a rink. Half a rink. So we're talking the difference between $1 million project down there on the tennis courts, which is not just $1 million tennis courts, it's $1 million rink and tennis courts. And it's the only one within 50 miles. So that would create quite a draw. But to have a full-size rink with a high school hockey team, because you're totally right, I would love there to be a high school hockey team on this island, but then you're looking at a $7 to $10 million project.
Could we think about an area maybe by somewhere else downtown where we could have a full-size rink? I don't think it costs that much more money to have a full-size one.
It's about 10 times the amount of money. 10 times.
And, to have a good rink, you really need to have a roof over it to keep the sun off of it.
I personally don't disagree with you. I would love to have a full, absolute wonderful facility, but we're talking the difference between really $1 million and $15 to $20 million to have a big arena. As
I'm not talking about a $20 million arena.
Even the most modest ice rink now costs about $10 million. I don't know where that money would come from, definitely not from private dollars.
Well, that's what this one is, $1 million.
10 million instead.
There's another aspect that I'm gonna tie back into the comment you had made earlier, as far as bringing people into the area. As we were doing this, the sustainability committee also came and made a suggestion regarding, bringing in a car charger. Right now, we have a few car chargers around town, so there's a pair at the Yachtsman's building, so there's a dual head charger there. There's a dual head charger at the north lot across from Swallow Field. And that's kind of it. Those are level 2 chargers. And so if you have an electric car and you want to charge it, it's going to be hours of sitting at a level 2 charger because it's 220 volt. There's a level 3 charger that is 440 volts. Those are the DC fast chargers or fast chargers that really can charge a car in a very short period of time, within an hour to 2 hours, something to that along those lines. There are no level 3 chargers on the island, and so some of the cost that is rolled into that warrant article is to put a level 3 charger in that area as well, which I would anticipate is going to have the opposite seasonal use as what the ice rink does, because I think most of the electric cars that are going to be coming to use that are going to be here as visitors in summer and not while the ice rink is running. Ice rink will be running. I find it unlikely that there's going to be a lot of electric cars that come in, but it's one of the other aspects that I think is going to be a draw for the town to be the only level 3 charger on the island at all. The closest are in Ellsworth, and with people that are coming here with electric cars, they're, that capacity to charge at that speed is a pretty big draw. So I think that'll be another aspect of bringing people into town. Specifically to come and hang out in town for a few hours.
Or
Which
go,
is part of that cost of the.
or wander off on a boat for a day while they leave their car on the charger? How are you gonna control that?
Well, you won't be able to control that, but you will be able to set the timing of
I can see
disconnecting and. If
That
it's
will-
disconnected.
That will be
you
a
swap
problem
over.
down here, though.
That will be a
That,
problem. down
we've
there.
been in a fight to, I mean, we just got the police to get a handle on the parking down there. And then the abuse of it for long-term parking, and that will be an invitation for some serious abuse.
It'll be a pair of spots, so it won't be a matter of like.
Yeah, but
charge
actually,
anywhere.
in the peak time, I mean, we had no room, we've just gotten this out, so we've had a few spots available, what time still moves out. But I mean, something we seriously have to address with, I don't know how, if you could. Signal, you know what I mean, how long they've been there and charging, but. And like this charger up here is never even come close to pay for itself, we don't do enough charging, hasn't done enough revenue to even cover its cost for operation.
Just thinking about the community and drawing, a lot of times I'll go skating down with my kids and there's other families from Blue Hill and other areas who they're trying to do ponds in Southwest. And we've gotten out of there and we've gone up to the restaurant and we've met people up there. And so I think there's that symbiotic relationship of people being there, families being able to walk up town and do stuff. And I know we have done that, even ourselves several times just by being out there when they were open, so.
Well, okay,
Okay.
I appreciate the update. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, 16 by 24 is a gigantic building structure. And, I mean, I don't know, but you can't rent a generator truck that can drive away in May. Just like a work site has the small generators. I'm not saying a small generator, but even if you had a great big
It's all the refrigerator. lines that
portable
hook up.
generator.
It's 16 feet by 24 feet.
The pad for it,
The
so
pad is, what's the actual size?
I think it's 55 ton. Is the compressor.
And-
I don't
and-
know, that's a no answer, I was just trying to think that maybe there is a way that you could drive a piece of equipment away. I think the operational cost of connecting wiring, you really need permanent power. And there's so many things that plug into it besides that, you know, the timers, the temperature controls. So I'm not saying that that's a no, I just.
Well, it's also, in my mind, a huge structure in an area that we've been working so hard to keep green. For people to run around with dogs and kids.
We discussed it one time, going down and doing like stakes, so people that had concerns could get a look at where it would be. Is there any chance we could do that again, or?
Yeah, I think we
Could
could.
stick something out.
Yeah, I
So
think
I want to
we
go
could.
back though,
Sure.
on the structure, what are you talking about? Just the compressor?
A what?
Are you talking about just the compressor? Because that's the only thing that's taking up new space.
Well, it's,
The pad,
you
that's-
said it was
that's-
16 by 24
That's-
by 5 feet high, maybe?
I think it's probably not, I think they're like closer to 5.5 to 6, because it's like a bank generator.
I mean, it's a huge, noisy thing.
I think that's what most I've heard concerns about is the aesthetics of the building itself.
I would have to say,
It's a fence, but just,
Mine-
it'd be a fence, or it's a screening fence like you would screen in a refuge area. So you can picture a 7-foot wooden fence around, that component. not
So now
necessarily-
it just got bigger.
No, I'm saying that that's the pad size, and then I'm just saying, what I heard sounded was confused, like it was a building, when it's not, it's like a utility pad that's enclosed in a fence, that's all.
So how do you sound?
What-
that?
Excuse me, I have a question, and this is Donna speaking. It's enclosed with soundproofing, correct? Like a brick wall that has sound down on it so that it absorbs the sound, because the constant drone would have a large impact on the town, and especially the proximity with the neighbors and just people, like Story said, playing with their dogs and playing with their kids and just trying to enjoy the outdoor green space. So this is an enclosure that's like built of brick or cement and sound down. What is it made out of?
Well, you can get pre-made ones, the program so far is to have wood enclosure, sound proofing on the inside, but there is, it does have to ventilate.
How long would a wood structure like that last? And what would the sound absorption capacity of that be?
I would say we could get some stuff together. The idea is, to have it soundproof and exactly what level you're allowed to get to your STC level. That's exactly how it's comprised. We could get more information. But is it half or 50? More like maybe it's 60 or 40% of it.
And there is some like area, I mean, would you plan it around it as well?
Yeah,
Because whether we have some vegetation there now, if that's where it's gonna go, just remove that, put it around it. I guess it'd be nice for everyone to be able to visualize it and then, because once we had a building, and I get, you know what I mean, and a lot of it is communication, like you have different designs and things, and I think we talked once about going down and just marking it out and then seeing it where it's gonna be relative to everything. I mean, there's areas there that aren't used, you know what I mean, that don't affect the larger usage areas.
I would say, if you don't mind, since I was down there almost every day this winter and I could count the people walking their dogs and the kids. On average, maybe there's 2 or 3 people walking their dogs.
I'm not talking about winter, I'm talking about summer, because the
It's
thing's
not gonna be
gonna be there in the summer.
There's gonna be no.
It's not going away.
Right, but there'll be no noise.
Well,
It's the
I-
structure.
we don't want to get in an argument here. We're expressing concerns about a permanent structure and change. And I think it's all legitimate, so it'd be nice if we had some, stakes in the ground and stuff like that. They,
Steve Pinkham, Steel Harbor. I realize it's a lot of money. But the more you can keep the children in the town busy, in the long run, it's gonna be a hell of a lot cheaper than rehab.
yeah,
Kind of not anything that we're gonna do, but if I could ask the committee and you, how come you're allowing kids in there without helmets? That, I've known 2 people in my life that have died ice skating. And to see that going on, professional hockey players wear a helmet for a reason.
Yeah, we're not playing professional hockey.
Someone fall over backwards or forward.
Yes, but in
I'm
this
just saying,
climate, would you not have to wear a helmet playing tennis? That's just as dangerous to fall over backwards.
you're asking for trouble and the town is will be liable for it.
Well, we do encourage people to wear
Yes,
helmets, and I
that's-
think that we
that's
should,
absolutely.
for hockey, I think that we should, mandate it, but it is also the town owns the rink now, so, those policies.
I think as far as, I heard the staking out that, there's some options on how that goes, and
Yeah.
I'm predisposed to say, this is the best and the pros and cons, and I think that we have a plan that's fairly well developed to have an informed conversation and maybe stake it out and have this meeting, maybe look at it beforehand, and then we have a constructive, another discussion. I think, yeah, that is, the spaces, particularly around it is limited, and some of those factors is that structure wants to be within 20 feet of what it's trying to cool. You can get away with that.
that's the critical point, that it has to be within
That
that.
has to be pretty close, within 20
Okay.
feet, or you get a bigger compressor, which is not the right direction I want to go.
Yeah.
And so instead of predisposing, this is X marks the spot, I think there are a lot of discussion points around the use on where that might best fit.
I think you need to go down there, stake, I mean, anything could be screened, it's not gonna be used in the summer. And in the winter, if we wanna go down, we can simulate the noise and view it, you know what I mean? Pick the spot, I'll bring a lawnmower down, we'll fire it up. No, and I'm not trying to be funny about it, but you can walk the various areas where any concerns are, and we'll know for a fact, rather than we're just speculating and guessing and something very much unknown at this time.
Well, yeah, I appreciate the conversation here, but we're not, I mean, you're enlightening the group about what's going on. We didn't really have any idea. some steaks would be good. So I'm gonna ask that we move on, okay?
Just one thing, would we, as the committee and all the people involved, meet down there at some point
We could,
before one of our meetings, or scheduled meetings here?
Or the same as a public hearing, invite, invite it. Like
Sure.
a site review, I mean, obviously it'd have to be before they could pull a permit, right? Or-
yeah, some kind of schematic, showing us what the impact
Then I'd like to
of
do
parents
that
would be.
first, I think you and I can. talk about
There's
that.
also the warming building that you wanted to put in too, I believe.
We heard the message.
Yeah, so just about the stakeout, I think that it's important to have an understanding and take input before everyone says X marks the spot, that's exactly what we wanna do. I think that there's a lot of different ways to do things, and part of being here is to have a conversation, and so maybe it makes sense. Take something out ahead of a meeting that you guys already have, we could meet there, answer questions, if we had to come back here, we could. Maybe that seems.
Our next meeting is, in June 2nd.
We got, we got a
May,
May,
I'm sorry,
Second Tuesday,
I'm jumping ahead.
second Tuesday in May.
Second Tuesday in May, I think, an on-site visitation before that. And we can discuss it in, public, that would be very helpful.
Put it right up against the bathrooms in that building and then we.
Well,
Pick out.
I think it's a good point. And,
we got May 13th and then June 10th
yeah,
for meetings.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
How are we gonna arrange a meeting for this?
We can have open the meeting down there with a public meeting at,
Well, I think we
Either
should have,
or-
I think we should have an on-site, inspection. prior to
that's
it.
what I'm saying, we can open our meeting down there at 4 or 4:15 and have a 10 or 15 minute thing
Site
down
visit,
there, look at
Like
it,
we do on the
and
planning board.
then convene back up here to finish our meeting.
That's fine,
If
let's
that's
do that.
how you want it.
Just like we did with your boat ride.
We're not going on a boat ride this time.
Well, I'm just saying.
Well, we could after.
Yeah, maybe we should.
I would enjoy it.
Do we need to have a motion to have a site visit
Yes, I
15
think
minutes
that- I
before the
think-
meeting?
I think that'd be a good idea.
I'd like to make a motion to have a site meeting at 4:15 before our next meeting.
4:00.
But we
A whole half hour?
we
Well,
gave
yeah,
them, we
We
gave
have
them.
15 minutes down there, then everybody's got 15
Okay.
minutes to get back up here to reconvene.
To have a site visit at 4:00 on May 13th.
We didn't give them a date. We gave them 2 dates.
Well, I gave them 2 options, so.
They want the earlier, you can be.
Okay, I didn't know, but we just gave them the same, we just told them.
Well-
Either May or June.
We can communicate.
I'll communicate with them.
Yes, I think that's a good motion. I'd like to hear that seconded.
I'll second it.
So site review at 16:15,
No, 1600.
1600
Yeah,
on
May
May
13th.
13th.
And then the regular meeting convenes back at 4:30 here.
That's a motion. Moved and seconded.
Now, only other thing is a rainstorm. Backup plan.
Too bad.
We'll worry about
Don't
that
worry
if it
about
happens.
that.
Well, I know.
Bring your rain slicker and your sou'wester.
I'll bring an
It won't
umbrella.
bother me.
I'll bring an umbrella.
Seconded
As a
by-
man, I worked and played in the morning.
All in favor,
You have
raise
to.
your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Greg left. I wanted him to stay.
We warm out, we got all the money out.
Oh, for the
He's coming
main
right
chair.
back in.
He is?
Yeah, you can talk with him.
Oh, all right.
You can give him a date then.
Well,
No, that's not what we wanted for,
that's not what we wanted for.
but we really, I have had a conversation with him today anyways, so.
Go ahead, John. We
There's
got-
something happening out there. Yeah, there he is.
Hey, Greg,
Greg.
do you have 2 seconds to just give us a quick overview of what your plan is for our RFQ? Right,
I
RFQ.
would anticipate that we would, first meet with your group. And, I know we know what the scope is, but we all wanna make sure we're clear identifying on exactly what we're asking for. I know what the things they need to do are. But collectively, the input, so things they need to do are like, they need to develop and understand existing conditions. They need to have geotechnical work done. Then they have a schematic sort of workshop with you guys to develop what it is. That's the RFQ. So basically writing the RFQ, but developing it with you to make sure it fits what your vision and goals are for it. So the first step is, this is how I think it outlines for the steps of the consultant that's going to design and bid it. And you guys say, yeah, that's what we're thinking. And then there's methods of putting that out for solicitation either by, which is likely a QBS quality-based selection. And then that is either in a form of public or select bid process for consultant that would do existing conditions, design, and estimate, and then bid. So the break where they would estimate costs prior to just going out the door. And in that slot, is the meetings with you to make sure it's tracking to where and how you want to, rebuild it. And so my job would be to work with you guys on the onset, to say, this is how it's structured, going out to how we select those vendors. So what we get back is what you're looking for. And I have now I've done it for other towns, the ferry terminal in Bar Harbor, other large projects, and say, okay, here's a way it can happen, but it needs to be catered to how, what your expectations are and what your end goals are. And I think that's how I see it unfolding.
So it's critical for you to be our go-between, because, I mean, you have all this knowledge that we, you know, we don't.
Yeah, in solicitation for them, but I think also it's important with a lot of consultants, once they're getting to that phase, that they're integrating them, and that on the front side, when you retain them, that their process has breakpoints in it that keeps you informed, so that it doesn't go down a rabbit hole during costs or what the final product is, and making sure that the contract you sign with them includes those, I wouldn't say stopping points, but clear defined stages of what they're doing. So you don't get all the way down the wrong path. And that's part, then setting that up on the front side of what we're asking them to do is what I could help you guys coalesce in some document that we can then use to solicit from.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Yep.
And you're gonna do that for 6,000, you said?
I think
6,000 to 8,000.
6,000 to 8,000, and that's for the whole job? With no change orders?
for me,
Okay,
until we solicit them.
all right, and then, but then are you gonna be ongoing after that, or does the next engineering? firm-
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about. A lot of times the towns would say, hey, can you just help us just stay involved until they are either comfortable with their side representative, or say, how do we react to or digest what we're getting feedback, or even, I'm not saying peer review, it's like, just like you may do, that doesn't really work based on this experience, and not helping kind of digest what's coming back. Mostly what I really see is making sure the communication is clear as you're going, so you don't end up with a project that's way over budget.
You mean like the two piers we did down here with it?
That's the purpose.
The second budget.
The time was a problem there. But anyways, I think that's the goal.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Greg. All right. Well, we definitely need the guidance.
Oh, yeah.
But I think where we got astray, we gotta be better. This was I mean, these last two projects we've done is pretty shameful. The building, looking at the other building, the one that took the two piers, it took 3 times as long. I mean, I would hope that, you know, we do a little better job and more time really holding the people to the fire and what we're doing, and hopefully we get a, you know what I mean, someone that's, you're gonna, you know, and have incentives to complete it, and we never held, you know, and have it in the contracts, you know, set times with penalties to make it and be enforced, instead of just throwing their hands up and being at the whim of the contractors as so many times.
This is a huge deal for the town, so
Yeah, it's gonna be a big project.
it's, and we know ideally it would be done in from the fall to spring and ready for summer, but
And I've worked with John, and we have a pretty good plan of how to accommodate the commercial access. And he's already indicated that his main thing would have that, and I talked to Mike Guzzetti, he said doing power to the north dock's not a problem, running around, 'cause it's got to be redone anyways. And then also coming up with a way where, you know, we talked about providing a conveyor, which then can be sold at the end of the project. And then using half of the seafood buyers' funds, the licensing fees, or leases, I say half those funds to go to that conveyor that year. So we don't have to hand back or reimburse, we make it capable, so they're still there. We give them a viable option, even though I think some of them might go elsewhere, we have a viable option to use the dock down there. And the end of it, the project, the conveyor can be sold, or that can be part of the, you know, thing that the contractor has to provide.
This is for unloading lobsters.
Yeah, or going down, so they're not sliding stuff down, and so they make them, they're just you can either have a belt and have a stop, and you just go back and forth, so we basically kick all the skiffs off that dock down there. And no more tying up on the public dock, and that would be used for the ferry to come in, people to load and unload. On the other side, you could come top, you know, dock, depending on if they need to get a barge in or what they're doing on construction. But that would become just a pull in, drop off, and then the truck could back up and they could use a conveyor right into them. But I mean, some might go to Southwest, but then we can still charge the fee, we don't upset that permit schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, we just allocate half that money to say, hey, this year we're gonna put that, half that fee to the conveyor, which we can sell at the end, and the contractor be responsible, we're still providing that service, so they can still come. And we're still getting our money from them for the season. Yeah. Because that's only part of the season's reduced, because when it's done, they should still be in full boom, but we don't have to, you know, cut the fee or negotiate with them, we're still providing them access. And the fishermen that pay a fee will have access, vice versa.
Would they be able to unload trash this way too?
You could put it up, but I mean, you're better off to pull in and throw them off or use another pier, but mostly in that time, I mean, they'll probably go somewhere else to do that, depending on the start date, you know, of the construction, which will be determined by the contractor, really.
Seems like most trash come in as usual in December.
But yes, you would be able to put them on the conveyor and push them up,
Yeah, that's
just
right.
like, yes.
Yeah.
well, it's a big deal, so anyway, all right. I'm gonna ask us to move on, we've got old business ordinance review, everything in agreement for town meeting.
Best of my knowledge.
Yes, everything's set, been
Okay.
sent to the printers is today,
Well, yeah,
as
so
far
we
as I
can't make
know.
any changes now.
No.
anyway. All right. Yeah, a lot of information here today. Impactive.
When do we think, I mean, would 3 years, would we start this again?
Boy, I would think we'd be damn lucky to get it.
Me and Greg have run through it, so. Next town meeting, 26th town meeting is when we would ask for approval for the. Engineering firm to be, money to pay them would be accepted. They would have all of 2026. They would have sometime in 27 would put out to bid. For construction to happen, so if they put out to bid during 27. It would be approved at town meeting of 28. Construction would start in, say, November of 28.
You're gonna be around.
That's
Probably not.
that's the timeline where we're at, and we could stretch to 2029 before construction and still be within the window that the GEI, the company that did the survey for us,
Yeah.
which would be our choice for the engineering if possible.
Yeah.
They did an excellent job. They have, you know, a good background. They're actually the company that does the radaring that we're looking at for Seal Harbor. They're the ones that did that over in Bar Harbor. So
Just remember that this one was built in 6 months.
Last 50 years.
our anticipation is to hope, you know,
Oh, nice.
someone like Chimbro or a huge company like that.
1957.
They might even pre-build the the pier itself and just bring it down and set it on the new pilings and everything in one or two pieces.
Besides that, waves off west of.
So,
We don't need to limit the weight of the trucks that go on there now.
no,
There's some nice chunks missing out of there.
it's
Would
all
we
superficial.
Consider
right now.
raising it up to what we're doing.
I think we need to raise it 2 or 3 feet.
And get the width, that we can do the footprint, do away with the width of those big, like, you go rail tires, that, so our width is that much.
Yeah,
And then we'll get a walkway down the middle.
it's gonna keep people from going over the edge.
Well, no, we can put railings on the side of that.
Okay.
So, because that's part of the footprint,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying, but
Yeah, yeah.
we'll use our whole footprint, and then on that side of that, because the piling's on the outside, right, so the footprint's gonna go on the side of the pilings, that's what they're considering. So we go over that, and then we can just have a railing on the side of that, so the pilings aren't a railing.
Hopefully not faster than this and that.
It would be nice if they could prefab that, just.
I
Well,
would assume,
most docks
I would
do now
assume they
too,
would.
for the expansion, so your weights, so the solid, you have rest, and they have a gap in between them, and some allow drainage, some also allow for expansion, and they're sectionalized, like the the southwest upper town, lower town dock that they redid, you'll see the sexual components, and they have like
That's,
stainless.
part of the one we have is, other than draining off on its own, there's no drainage. Water just sits there with the,
And what really hit us is when they were spraying for a while, we were using the calcium spray, and they backed the tanker truck down there, and they just sprayed it before a snowstorm or icing, and that's when it really blew it apart. And then and nowadays they have different concrete, and the rebar inside of it will be probably a galvanized or something that won't corrode. So once oxidation started in the rebar, that starts popping the process, and that's, you know what I mean, that's where it kind of got exacerbated the problem.
Go to straight carbon fiber.
Another,
Get hit by
if we're
lightning.
gonna go up. We're gonna need new ramps too, because there's no way they. can do
sure,
that.
new
ramps
ramps, the
anyways.
ramps are timed at the same time that the pier is happening. So 28, 29, I have CIP money we've been putting away for 30 years to,
But they
well, not
need
for
to be
30,
longer than they are.
that'll be all part of our discussion, and new ramps are already, the money is already sitting in our CIP accounts to buy new ramps.
So we have money tied up, and the best that when we met with John, had some pointed questions about the budget confusion. Basically, we can afford comfortably, we determined that we could afford $200,000 a year in payments for this, and have $800,000 to $1 million to put down towards it. Being conservative, correct, John? That was our estimate.
I think on the current one we have, I think when it started, we were paying $236,000 a year, 100,000 bond payment and 136,000 in interest. Obviously, now the bond payment's still 100, but I think the interest is down to like $30,000 because it was all front loaded like any loan. So, we also make almost double what we made when we originally did that. We were making roughly 600,000 a year back in 2011, 12. We would probably make somewhere over 1.2 this year, or the fiscal year that will end in June 30.
Very good. Anything else? Rod?
John, I mentioned to you about the way they run the wire from the power to the crane.
I had that discussion with MCM and expressed our concerns, the way that chafed off, and they're gonna run across through the PVC pipe that is at the beginning. And come along the other side is the discussion I had the other day.
They've already hooked everything up.
They've run-
They're gonna unhook it again.
Well, the one that they ran last year was still there.
Yeah.
Have they run new? No. So
And it's
there's,
already chafed off.
yes,
Been hooked up.
no, I had a discussion 3 weeks or a month ago with Andrew at MCM that, the way that was run was not adequate and it wouldn't last and it needed to be run. And he needed to utilize the PVC pipe that goes underground and try to come up the other side to the hoist and then over to the light.
Well, you might wanna mention again, because as far as he's concerned, he's all done, they're just waiting for the hydro, the immunity to hook it up.
Well, I'll go over and look again tomorrow and see, and if that's the case, I'll have a discussion with him. But, I was told that barring any problems, by the middle of this month, the power would be back on. And they were supposed to have, done as much as they can to make sure the hoist is gonna be functioning, but obviously they're limited until they turn the switch on. But-
No, nobody has checked it, needed it or anything?
I asked them to do anything and everything they could without electricity to make sure that it was gonna function. And they said that they would do that, but ultimately, until they flick the power on it and do it, they may or may not. But I did tell you, I do have a spare motor in my office, so, you know, and I've told Andrew that too, so.
So where is the power, how are they gonna hook up the toilet when they back it in?
The toilets, that obviously they're gonna pour a pad similar to where the old one was.
Yeah.
The toilets are actually sitting at the bus garage now.
Yeah.
They're actually really nice.
Yeah.
I pushed Brian to get 2 handicap ones because it was provided a lot more room in both of them. They're gonna have a temporary type pedestal hookup. And the same for the water. They both have sinks and flushable toilets.
So that
all,
power's not gonna go underground to it, it's gonna go really?
yep, the power will go over and be on some sort of a pedestal type hookup. And they'll hook into them every year with the water and the sewer and the power and.
So they'll have to set another pole on that?
Not that I'm aware, no, they'll run power. Like it used to be run, well, it used to go across. They may decide to. I'm not sure exactly what they've got planned for that, now that I think about it, but they will be a temporary hookup, they'll be able to. Put them over there with the forklift every year, plug them in or wire them in every year, and they have electric lights, electric fan, and, you know, running water in them, so. They're really nice, and you stop by the bus garage sometime, they're sitting right in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last thing, you mentioned the ultrasound, did you say that was done?
No, it hasn't been done, right?
I mean, you've been over there, that not culvert, but drain, that is sunk even more over what?
Are you talking in the parking lot?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, my concern is, our concern for the harbor committee always stops right at where the pier turns into the parking lot. I thought you've always been asking me to have the pier itself
Well,
done.
I had.
You want the whole
thing,
parking lot
but-
done.
but, no, the whole thing, I thought.
Yeah,
we just-
so the conversation I had with RFI, which is that company, I was only asking them about the pier.
That's the main thing.
I'll
Because
get with
that's-
Brian, I'll ask him tomorrow, because the parking lot itself belongs to the highway department or public works. So that's really not in our, we don't. You know, put money aside for that parking lot, but that's like the toilets or public works.
Yeah. All right,
But
well,
I'll check with Brian and tell him that I thought your concern was always just pier.
Well, it is, but I was just letting you know that's sinking.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Oh, yeah,
So some, I mean, who knows where, nobody will really have storage where they're gonna got it into.
Okay, guys,
but hopefully the light should be on the middle of the month.
Yeah.
That's what I was told by MCM. The invoices came, so.
anything else? Motion to adjourn,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
moved and seconded, all in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Carried, thank you.
Who seconded the German?
I did.
All right, thank you.